Homeschool applications in the state of California double in just 1 year. And those, my friends, are the only numbers anywhere in the state moving in the right direction for the godforsaken people of California. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is the Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the globe. Today's show is sponsored by Mike Lindell and our friends at MyPillow. Can you remember the last time you had a great night's sleep? It wasn't last night. Get your MyPillow stuff. MyPillow wants to solve that problem for you. They have the greatest pillows, sheets, towels, anywhere you're going to find. Simply use the code Dr. Duke, D-R-D-U-K-E, and you can save up to 66% on MyPillow.com. And don't forget, still on special there at MyPillow, you buy one set of Egyptian cotton sheets, amazing sheets, you will get another set absolutely free and free shipping. Use the code Dr. Duke, D-R-D-U-K-E. Today we start in California with some good news, as a report finds that homeschool applications in just 1 year have doubled. So that's a big number. California is already one of the biggest homeschool states. Can you imagine being a conservative mom in California? Oh gosh, you could not go anywhere near those public schools. So this is good news. It's good to see it. And hopefully, given what's coming in the fall, what people are about to experience this fall in the classroom, unmitigated politicization of your classroom. It's going to be in your face every day. This isn't about school anymore. Don't use the word school when we're talking about public government educational facilities. They're not schools. Schools seek to teach kids round-based knowledge. They seek to make kids facile and utile in subject matter and in certain areas of disciplines of learning. No. This is, for the first time in American history, your kids are going to be welcomed back to the fully politicized American classroom. It's going to be socialist. It's going to be racial and racist. It's going to be sexualized. You think you've seen stories now. You think you've encountered angry parents now. What's coming is going to bugger all description.
Bugger?
Well, I went to...
Bugger. I was rolling with it.
I was using that in the English connotation. No further explanation needed.
All right, well, at least most of the California kids are going to get that, but 34,715 of those children will not have to get that, hopefully, because that's how many private school PSA affidavits, the private school affidavits, if you're in California, you know the lingo, and those affidavits are for 5 children or less, were submitted during the most recent year. And in California, homeschools are recognized as private schools, so that's why it's a private school affidavit you're filling out. And homeschooling families are required to submit this to the DOE. So that's how it works in California. If you're from California, leave us a comment. Let us know how your experience has been filling out these affidavits. I'm just quite curious about it. Now, the most recent homeschool figures are more than, as we said, twice what they were during the 2018 to 2019 school year, when there were 14,548 PSAs, and there were 22,433 PSAs during the 19 and 2020 school year. So it's at 34,715. So thank you. Good job, mom and dads out there actually wanting your children to be educated in anything but critical race theory and sexualization. And basically, you want to teach them how to read, write, and do math. What do you know?
Yeah, it is. And, it is gratifying to see in a state like California people responding. When you think about how draconian California has already been, though, you wonder why it's not more.
Yes. That's because all of the people have gotten out of California.
Yeah.
So really, the homeschool numbers should just go on the rise for like Texas, Idaho,
Florida,
basically
Idaho,
anywhere but California.
Anywhere but California. It's amazing. If you want a picture framed postcard of what life is under socialism, just take a look at California. One of the most beautiful states one of the most beautiful places to be in the world. Just incredibly diverse biodiversity. You have ocean all across, up and down that great state. The natural resources are stunning. The people, have been in the past, right? Hardworking and energetic people. And yet look what the state does. Look what these increasing socialist parameters are doing to people. How many businesses have been driven out? How many families have been driven out? How many families have been driven out to sign up for homeschooling? It just gets worse and worse every year there. And I get it. Your economy is so big and so underwritten by many aspects of the American government that fine, that you're limping along. Those of us in red states are, whether you know it or not, in subtle ways, we're subsidizing this failure. And certainly now that you've got President Joe Biden, right, whose infrastructure plan, if it gets passed later this year, is going to include plenty of federal bailouts for failed socialist states like California.
And where does the vice president hail from, even though no one likes her?
California.
And where does the Speaker of the House not really reside except to store her ice cream? Where is that?
In a coffin in a basement away from the sun?
That.
San Francisco. Okay.
San Francisco, which is in California. So everything in growing up here in the Midwest, where you just thought of California, all you knew about California, at least growing up, was, oh, Hollywood. Now learning more about all of what has happened in that state and how that, I mean, the gold rush, people. It used to be a place people wanted to go to make a living, to be good, entrepreneurial, and now it's, in many respects, a cesspool, an S-hole, if you will. And
yeah,
it's not. I'm not the only one saying.
Right.
I'm not even saying DT said. I'm saying like the people who live there have said it.
In fact, if there is a S-hole part of California that is worse than others, it's the most progressive city in the country, San Francisco, right? Where the feces is literally on the floor everywhere. I mean, there's your analogy. If California was a human body, it would be upside down, but we know where the back end would come. But that back end, the dying fish stinks from the head down. That's, I think, what we're talking about here with California.
So just, I mean, if you want to take a look overall, it'll be interesting to see the numbers across the nation. We've been talking about, in New York, how the kindergarten enrollment is down, and now we're getting the more than double about homeschool out in California. I mean, we're talking about the big states here as to what's happening. But when we can get an entire encompassing view of how many parents have decided, I've had enough, between the sexualization, the critical race theory, and just every day having during COVID and not being able to go to school for that, watching over the shoulders of their kids and seeing what their kids are not really doing in school. How many more will be pulled out too?
And it's even more than that too. We've done a number of stories over the last 6 months about expensive private schools and how they are in some ways farther. There's more resources. They're already farther ahead of the public schools in this critical race theory. They've got the resources, they've got the money to implement this much faster, and they've done it. And the two primary places where we've seen these $60,000 a year prep schools, high school. Imagine paying $60,000 a year to send your kids to high school for 1 year at these elite places in California and New York, the two states where you see New York's, they're losing congressional seats in New York, right?
Aww.
I mean, people are running away. You got California, where we're losing population density. And so sooner or later, now, if it weren't for the endless flow of illegal immigrants into California who are putting back the Congress districts, filling back up the congressional districts that are being emptied out by fleeing white people, it'd be a lot worse in California. I'll bet you if we seriously shut off illegal immigration for 2 years, California would, and nothing else changed, California would lose 6 or 7 congressional seats. It's not going to happen because Open Borders Biden recognizes the problem. And let's be clear, the Nancy Pelosi's of the world, the Schiffs of the world, the Gavin Newsoms of the world, how bad is it? You're recalling your own idiot governor. How bad is it that you've got a DA in San Francisco who's the child of actual terrorists who's using the DA to completely get rid of law enforcement? All of this happening in California, and more moms are turning away and educating their kids at home. There's no possible way you could screw it up more than California public schools have.
All right, before we move on, just a quick reminder that the best way to access our content is to download the Freedom Project Media app. All you have to do is simply search Freedom Project in your app store, then you download it, and then you make sure you allow for notifications. And also, if you like listening to the audio podcast, we are available on Apple, Google, SoundCloud, and pretty much everywhere else. Now, we know that California is a cesspool, but Washington is not too far behind them.
I mean,
if you know what I'm saying.
Washington is a very bad clone with a very bad Nancy Pelosi wannabe governor.
But they do have some good coffee, burnt and all, at Starbucks. Now, Washington is a cesspool also for their activist teachers.
Yep.
Because in Puget Sound, the region, there are 3 teachers specifically who are openly bragging about how they use Black Lives Matter and race in their lessons. And it's just so refreshing to be able to do that.
You've still got the great big lie being perpetrated by the mainstream media that there is no critical race theory in our kids' schools. All these moms and dads have just been activated by a highly, highly sinister right-wing press. That's the actual story they're trying to sell the American people. And here, you've got teachers in Washington saying basically, go ahead, ban it, tell us we can't do it. We will defy your ban. We're going to teach your kids what we think is important, not what you think. We don't care about how much money you fund us. See, we would. If we could separate the funding. Look, if you as teachers want to go your own way, you want to go rogue, and you think your union protects you from getting fired for being insubordinate and violating the laws of a state, go ahead and do it. Just, we'll take our money back. Let's see how long it lasts. When it starts cutting into these teachers' primo retirement packages, we'll see how long they want to keep this game up. But they're telling you, we are not going to play along with the law. If they ban this, we're going to do it no matter what, because we know better than you do what should happen to your kids.
All right, well, Crosscut did a little feature piece on all of these teachers, and they included quotes from various teachers, but they kind of highlighted specific ones. Now, Joanne Barber is a 2nd grade teacher at Crestwood Elementary School in the Kent School District. Now, I guess last year's Black Lives Matter protest presented an opportunity for her to teach more about race. And she said, I'm willing to be that teacher that has those hard conversations. 2nd grade teacher.
2nd grade,
Second
yeah.
grade.
And what's with the superhero pose in the woods out there?
I'm not sure. But she did say that I would be doing a huge disservice to my students if I didn't give them information that they could see themselves in.
So if I didn't racialize my classes for 6 and 7-year-olds, I could never live with myself. And I vow that if you stop me from teaching 6-year-olds about racial discrimination, I'm going to do it anyway. Again, I'm still waiting. When is the next time? You want to have a lottery? Let's get a lottery. When is the next time Dr. Duke Show will be able to do a show where some educator somewhere is actually talking about math and science and reading?
Well,
outside the lens of racism.
According to the story for Barber, teaching students about racial history is just as important as reading or math. Her class starts with defining social justice and talking about slavery, which led to institutional racism and implicit bias.
5 and 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds.
7-year-olds. Barber also weaves race and equity into every subject, whether it's learning about scientists or mathematicians of color, sharing social justice facts, or reading about civil rights movements. Every day in her class is filled with race education.
Every day in every class, she's peddling this garbage. So she's not teaching other stuff. She's teaching it to the lesson of racism. She's not teaching math for the sake of math. She's not teaching kids to write for the sake of writing and reading. She's all doing every aspect of it to brainwash them at 7 years old to think like she thinks. That, my friends, is what you're dealing with in the public schools.
All right, and then we have Johanna Fisher, who is at Interlake High School in Bellevue.
There she is.
Social studies teacher. Says her class talks about Europeans starting their explorations, how laws changed to intentionally discriminate against African Americans, and how race is a social construct. Mm-hmm. Oh, right. Also, that Black Lives Matter is a stepping stone. She says, I was already trying to be intentional about integrating discussions about race and equity into my classroom prior to the BLM protest last year, but of course it brought a new level of awareness for many people.
Who do they think they are that they have the right to do this?
She's a social studies teacher.
What gives them the right to do this?
What's interesting, though, to me here is Karen Ho, who is a first-year biology teacher at Bellevue Big Picture School, who has struggled to bring in the connectedness during online teaching. She struggled, as did all the teachers, according to most of the teachers.
It's harder to brainwash them when they're not sitting right in front of you and someone's recording it, right?
In her defense, if I was a biology teacher, it would be difficult to do dissections, but hey, at Freedom Project Academy, our biology teachers get it done. Now, an element of shared experience is gone, according to Ho. She says, and I want to make sure that our BIPOC classmates don't feel singled out. She said she hasn't quite mastered how to teach students to be a good ally and is not sure how she feels about being the person of a lot of people that a lot of people turn to as an expert on social justice issues.
So,
first-year biology teacher.
So she doesn't want BIPOC kids to feel singled out.
Yep.
So we're going to single out white kids for in-class training. So we're going to make every class about the evilness of white kids. So we're not going to make BIPOC kids feel singled out. And how are we going to do that? By singling out all non-BIPOC kids. What a great idea. Stick to biology.
Earlier, we had talked about, the other day, I should say, we talked about the largest teachers union in the U.S. Well, there's an equivalent over there in the U.K. Over there, it's called the National Education Association. Or over here, it's called National Education Association. Over there, it's called the NEU, the National Education Union. So it's pretty much just, you're an association, you're a union, we're all one big happy family. Now, they're calling for activist training on issues such as whiteness, or they want to make, white privilege and colonialism visible in the schools. Now, the NEU said that there is an urgent need to decolonize all phases of education in the United Kingdom in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement, which is happening in the U.S.
Because what's happening in the U.S., the United States, by a bunch of overpaid, undereducated grifters who are being supported by corporate America, whose main objective is not Black Lives Matter, but if you read their own website, globalism and doing away with the nuclear family and getting rid of police and global communism. This is what they want. Because of all that's happening in America, here in the UK, we have to motivate 450,000 members of this NEU. Yeah. 450,000, many of them educators, to decolonize the classroom because of the Black Lives Movement scam in America. England, aren't there enough grifters? I've watched enough British movies to know that there are con men aplenty. I saw Revolver. I saw Layer Cake. I've seen them all, right? There's a lot of grifters. There's a lot of mob guys over there. Do you really have to import scam artists from the United States to change your schools? Can't you come up with a British version of this? For the love of God, people, be a little bit original. You were the original country. Don't follow the half-assed, lame kind of garbage that's coming from our pseudo-intellectuals in this country. You got to do better, the UK.
Maybe what they should do is get Doctor Who on the case.
There you go.
I know my British TV.
Go back in time.
Go back in time. Then you won't have the monarchy. And
no, they're too busy diversifying Doctor Who, so she's now a...
now it's a woman.
Exactly. That's the whole point, right?
David Tennant was the best doctor. Comment below. Okay, so according to the NEU, they've suggested that specialists could train the teachers and the schools on whiteness, anti-racism, creating tools for critical self-reflection and understanding the system, and that make white privilege and colonialism visible in the schools. Okay, so apparently, according to a document that was sent out, all aspects of the education system, including how classrooms are laid out, the physical layout, the curriculum, the daily routines of pupils have all been shaped by colonialism and neoliberalism. Oh, have they now? This is why we left you, England. All right, now the document stated that there is a silence around British imperialism and racism in British schools, and that British culture itself is saturated with a longing for return to empire without any understanding into what empire is or was.
I've been paying British news for about 15 years, paying serious attention to it. What is this longing for?
Longing.
Are you kidding me? This is not new. They don't want to talk about racism in England. Are you kidding me?
Hello, Meghan Markle.
Get over your
Harry.
This is what we hear in this country too. Before Black Lives Matter came along, we never discussed slavery.
Not once.
We never talked about it. Even though, again, as I've mentioned, for 20 years, the only thing my college kids know about American history is slavery. It's the only thing they universally get. They get nothing else. But now we're supposed to believe all of a sudden, because of the rise of Black Lives Matter, now, after thousands of years of Western culture, we've realized there are minorities in the world. We've realized that, hey, We have black people in the country. Are you kidding me? This revisionist history is right out of the socialist playbook. It's a big, stinking, fat lie. And yet the more these unions, like we looked at Randy Weingartner earlier in the week on the Dr. Duke Show, stand up and lie to the American people. There's no critical... The other union went forward and said, hey, we're going to start teaching critical race theory. Randy Weingarten's response was, we're not teaching it. We don't teach that. What are you talking about? Nothing to see here. But then again, this is the United Kingdom, where apparently 8 out of 10 Brits would feel more comfortable with face diapers on, right? To go back to wearing masks. And if you can believe the poll, 8 out of 10 Brits are wanting to go back to a system where everybody's wearing masks all the time. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is true, wow.
If you want to talk about stereotypes, it's to cover the teeth. But anyway, the Joint Secretary of the Union named Mary Bousted said that what and how we teach and whether we think about overlooked voices and untold histories contributes to whether we're giving young people equal opportunities to succeed at school. Decolonizing can lead us to a more empathetic and fairer society, which is good for us all. But it's also about high quality teaching and more time for critical thinking skills in school. Critical thinking.
Let's decolonize the London classroom. You got these huge unassimilated groups of angry Muslims, right? Let's do decolonizing by setting up the Islamic classroom. Boys over here, girls at home learning how to sew. How about that? How about let's decolonize? Yeah, let's do it, Britain. Let's do it. Let's take the example of those peoples we've colonized, those people, minority people we've let into our countries to partake of our civic life. Let's do Muslim education. What do you say? Keep the girls at home, covered from head to toe, and let the boys go to school. I guarantee you, Islamic clerics all across England will consider that a huge step forward to do it. Sharia law. Bring it home, England. Lead the way. Lead the suicide lemming way right off the cliff, and maybe we Americans will follow you. It's time now for some real education, and this is a serious week on the Instant Classics for us because we show you this video, and we're going to keep showing it you all bloody week. Young mom in suburban neighborhood, mom stops to allow her son to tear somebody else's property out of the ground, an American flag, whip it to the ground, and then scoot right down the road. Look, if this was a gay pride flag that had been hurled to the ground, whoever had done that would have been doxxed already. We want to get a hold. We want to find out who these people are, not because we want to forbid them from burning their own flags or change their politics. This is America. But you vandalized somebody else's property. You trespassed and vandalized. Something needs to be done. There needs to be restitution made, and that's what we're hoping is going to happen. And yet, in the middle of all this, one of the things we want to do this week, besides showing you that, is consider what happens when education goes wrong. When you're teaching kids as young as that, where not just even the schools, where moms are abetting children in flagrant acts of vandalism of somebody else's property, we got an educational problem. Take a look at the quote from today. It's a simple one. This is from M.Z. Rafi, the Queen of Grenada, formerly. And she wrote, "It is easier to land a man on the moon than to change the school system." And that's the point for today. Look at how Byzantine our schools have become. We, for the first time, in my lifetime, moms and dads of all races now, all backgrounds, including many immigrant, many BIPOC families, are protesting loudly against critical race theory in the public schools. No one listens. The school boards don't listen. The national teachers unions don't listen. The Department of Education in Washington doesn't listen. Superintendents and principals and teachers don't listen. They're going to do it anyway. Go ahead and scream. They're your kids, not theirs. It's your money, not theirs. It's your kids' future, not theirs, that they're ruining. It's not you, it's them who have abandoned the requirement to teach your kids math and science and reading for highly politicized racial subjects and sex. They're doing it no matter what. The Queen is right. The former Queen of Grenada is right. Our education system needs to be torn down from the top down. It is ineffective. It is dishonest. It is corrupt beyond repair. Tear it down, disband the unions, pull apart the Department of Education, return education. That's the real revolution that has to happen. Return education to parents. Let them keep their money to educate kids their own way. That's the only way you're going to fix this. And if you don't fix it fast, there will be there will be no fixtures. That little kid's going to grow up to be some Antifa punk throwing rocks at your car in the middle of a protest in Seattle somewhere.
Okay, if you enjoy our content, please consider supporting us by joining the Patriot Club. Your one-time $99 tax-deductible donation allows us to bring you all of these crazy stories every day. Simply visit patriotclub.us to get signed up. And of course, as a little thank you, we will ship you our signature tumbler. Now we want to take a moment to show some love to our Patriot Club members. And today we're giving a shout out to Rick from Clovis, California. Rick, I'm sorry you live in California, but thank you for supporting us.
And that wraps up this show for Freedom Project. I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends.